today's video, we're going to be recreating this Iman Gadzhi style animation in Premiere Pro. Following along and doing this animation is going to set the foundations for you to be able to do these advanced animation techniques. Now, if you do want to become an advanced editor and animator, then join our Leverage Editor program and community. In here, we take you from being an okay or average editor who's struggling to create high quality content, land clients, and stick out from the crowd to get paid what you deserve, to a leveraged editor who's able to create the Iman Gadzhi style, Danko style, and develop your own unique style to perform well on social media, and also attract top influencers and brands that are ready to pay you top dollar. Joining this program is going to help you stick out from the crowd, and I'm giving you 12 years of my knowledge of video editing and obtaining clients. You'll get all that training plus the community where you'll have access to our editing network, coaches, video reviews, job boards. So we have things like this going on within the program and the community. And as of right now, our Leverage Editor program and community is going to be the lowest price it ever will be. Each month we're going to increase the price as more and more gets put in to the program and community. So now's your only chance to enroll in at its lowest price. So do that right now if you're a struggling editor trying to stick out from the crowd. So the link is in the description. Do not wait to join, and I'll see you in there. With that, let's get into this tutorial. Alright, so we're here in Premiere Pro. Now, if you want all the assets that I'm going to be using in this tutorial, the link is in the description to download them completely for free. You'll get all the assets, even the project file that I am working with right now. So download that stuff for free. If not, you don't want to download it, you can find this stuff on Google if you just search some things up. But yeah, let's get into it. So right here, we have a Premiere Pro timeline open. So what you want to do for the actual sequence settings, I'll give that to you real quick. Just a 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second, and just copy this and you should be good, and hit OK. Now from here, we're going to be working with this $100 bill. I'm going to toss that into our timeline, just make it a little bit longer so it's a little easier to work with. I'm going to scale it up just very slightly here, and we need to throw on a tint effect. So I'm going to go over to the effects window here. I'm going to look up tint, toss this tint effect onto our $100 bill, and we're going to change the map black to, we're going to want to change that to this dark blue right here. For the map to white, we just want to change it to a lighter blue. So you can copy this color code and then hit OK. That's going to give us our stylized look of the $100 bill. From here, what we need to do is divide it into 4 separate pieces. So before I actually adding crops to it and piecing it out, I'm going to make an adjustment layer. So right here, just hit new and you'll see adjustment layer. Just hit OK. Drag and drop that on top of our dollar bill here, or $100 bill. Go to the effects and look up grid. Toss that grid on there. We're going to change the blending mode to add, and I'm going to bring both of these layers up. I'm going to make one more solid layer here, which is just go to color matte, hit OK, make sure it's black, hit OK, and then hit OK again. Drag that on. That'll allow us to see the whole entire grid. And what we can do with the adjustment layer is just change the color to red. I like working with red, and we can honestly turn down the opacity as well. It's just going to allow us to make sure that we're lining things up, or you'll see when we cut this out, you can use basic math to make sure everything's lining up. So I'm going to look up in the effects tab here, crop. We're going to toss this onto our $100 bill. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is cut out this top left piece here. So with the bottom, I'm going to do 50%. That's going to cut it in half. And then for the right, we're going to change that to 50% as well. Now it's just this top half here. I'm going to make a couple layers here just by dragging the adjustment layer up quite a bit. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate this layer here. So to do this, you just want to hold Option on your keyboard. On a PC, you would hold Control, I believe, and you're going to click and drag while holding Option and just drag it one layer above, or one track above. I'm going to untoggle this layer below it, the other dollar bill that we just made, that piece we just made. And I'm just going to change the settings on this one. So we want the right side of it. So I'm going to just change the right crop to 0 and then change the left to 50%. And that's just going to give us the right side. Same thing here. I'm going to duplicate it by holding Option and dragging it up. Untoggle the one below it. We can keep the left the same, and we could just change the bottom to 0 here. And then the top just needs to be 50%. Same thing again. Going to hold down Option to duplicate while dragging up. Untoggle the one below it. Now with the one on top, we're just going to change the left percentage to 0 and the right percentage to 50%. That's going to give us all 4 pieces. So I'm going to retoggle all these layers, and now all 4 pieces are there. We can take away this grid, and now it's time to add the wave effect onto the $100 bill here. So what I'm going to do is in the effects window here, just look up wave. Scroll down, you should see wave warp. Let's just toss it onto the very first layer of the $100 bill here. So it's this top left one. There's just a couple settings that we need to change here. So under the wave warp effect, we're going to change the wave width to 128. There we go. And then the wave speed is going to be 0.5. That's all we need to do, is just change those settings. And then from here, we can copy this effect. So I'm going to hit Command C. Make sure this is highlighted. So to copy effects, you click on the actual name of it. That means it's highlighted. And then do Command C. On a PC, it would be Control C to copy. And then what we can do is highlight all the layers that don't have the effect and hit Command V. And as we can see, the $100 bill is waving at the right thing. Everything just like falls into place here. All right, so now we need to animate this slightly out because it separates. This is pretty easy as well. I'm going to go over to my first layer here, and we're going to create a keyframe for position. Make sure your playhead is at the very beginning of the timeline before we hit this keyframe here. So once you hit that, we're then going to do drag our playhead to the right just a little bit, and then we're going to change the Y and X position by 20. So from 540, we're going to go to 560. So for the top left, we want it going up. So to make it go up, we're going to drag this to 520. And then to make it go left, we want to drag it to 540. So that's all you have to move by, is only like 20 pixels here in each direction. Then we can highlight both these keyframes, right click, temporal interpolation, ease in. One more thing to do is drop down the position here with this little arrow. You'll see these two little things that you can grab on. We're going to take this one from the right, make sure both these are highlighted to do this. We're going to take this one from the right and just drag it to the left. It might not look like anything's changing, but it's just going to smooth it out a little bit more. So what we need to do is actually drag these a lot closer because the timing pretty off. I'm going to make a big cut here because I dragged this out too much. It's making our timeline too big. Drag these way closer. That's pretty good. So you can see a little more of a hump here. Get that timing of it right. That's good. What we can do from here is actually copy these keyframes. So again, I'm going to highlight both of them, right click, copy, go over to our next one, which should be the top right. I'm going to make sure I put my playhead at the beginning and hit Command V. That's going to paste those keyframes on here. But now that they're pasted, we can see it's not separating to the right here. So we need to move this first position to make sure it's going right. What we want to do is snap to this keyframe, so we know that we're manipulating this keyframe only. To do that, for some reason Premiere Pro has been glitching lately, but all you have to do is, like, when this little arrow thing pops up here, you'll see it when you go between these two sections here. You're going to drag that just a little bit, and all of a sudden this pops up. So this is the go to next keyframe. It's just going to snap our playhead to that keyframe, which is really important. So now that when we manipulate this, we want it going to the right by 20. So if you know, the normal thing is 960, so we want it to be 980. And that just makes sure, like, snap into this keyframe, make sure that when we manipulate the position of it, it's only that keyframe's being changed. So now that when we play it back, they both separate and it looks pretty good. Now we need to move on to the bottom two. So I'm going to highlight both these keyframes, hit Command C to copy, go over to our next layer, hit Command V, make sure my playhead's at the beginning when I do this. And to make sure it copies into this, you can see that if I just have the layer selected and hit Command V, the keyframes don't show up. It's not being pasted in there. You have to make sure that the effects control is selected. You can see that here, my timeline selected with a blue outline. If I go over to the effects control and just click in here, you can see now that this window is highlighted. If I hit Command V, now it will get pasted in there. Play this back, we can see it's not moving in the right directions. So we need to snap to this keyframe here. Once again, we have to kind of just adjust that a little bit to where we see this appear, hit go to next keyframe, and we're dealing with the bottom right here. So what I'm going to do is just reset the parameters. It's going to put it in its normal position. And from here, we need this to go down by 20. So 540, it should be going to 560. Then we also need to go to the right by 20. So 960, it should be going to 980. Highlight both these keyframes, right click, temporal interpolation, ease in, drop this down, drag this part to the left. So highlight that and drag that to the left all the way. And it looks just like that. One more to do. So highlight these keyframes, Command C, click on the layer, bring this playhead to the beginning, make sure that effects control is selected, hit Command V to paste it in there. And then so for the position of this one, we need to snap to that one on the right, the keyframe on the right. And we're going to change this from 980 to 940, and then 560 should be correct. So now if we play this back, it's all separating just how we want it. All right, so now that we got the bill animating how it needs to be, the next thing to do is add that little grid type line, or I don't know what you would call it, line dashes through this, where it's like almost a plus symbol. This is really simple. Usually you would go to Photoshop and make those lines because it's a lot easier to do there. But there's a nice quick workaround for it. And that's actually just hitting T on your keyboard to bring up the text tool. Clicking once, that's going to allow us to type something. And I'm just going to make a bunch of dashes. So you can't see what's going on right now because it's black, the font color. So I'm going to go over to workspaces, change this to caption and graphics. This will allow me to change the fill to a white here. So now that we have a couple dashes there, what we can do is actually separate them. So this little, I don't even know what you call it here, but this little thing, if you just drag that to the right, increase it, it's going to separate our dashes. So that's pretty good. I'm just going to make a little bit more dashes here. And that's what it needs to be. To align this in the middle, I'm going to go over to my align settings here, align and transform, align center horizontally, and then align it vertically. That's going to put it in the middle for us. Now that we have this one built out, I'm just going to duplicate it by holding Option on my keyboard, clicking and dragging it up. It's going to duplicate it. And then we can change the rotation over here. So in the effects control window, I'm going to go over to rotation and type in 90 degrees. From here, we just need to delete some of the dashes. So I'm going to delete quite a few, and then I'm going to take my selection tool here, click and drag this while holding shift and bring it so that it's in the middle here. I'm actually going to delete some more dashes and then drag it so it's in the middle. And this one on the bottom, I'm going to drag it to the right a little bit so that this dash is perfectly sitting in the middle. Makes it look a little more natural or a little bit cleaner of the image. So that's our dashes. Now we need to have this animate in. Both of them animate in. So I'm going to go over to the effects tab here, look up crop, and I'm going to toss a crop onto the bottom one first, the one that's going horizontally. In the crop settings here, you'll see it's right here. I'm going to first off drag my playhead over here to the very beginning, create a keyframe for right, drag that keyframe out to the right in the timeline here, and then make this just increase the percentage to where it's just getting cut out. So I can see right around here, so around 88%, might be a little bit different for you, but 88% here is good. And then I'm going to snap to the one to the right by going to go to next keyframe, and I want to find the point where it just comes in. So it's 16%. And then I'm going to highlight both these keyframes, right click, ease in, go over to this drop down arrow here, and then take this one on the bottom, drag it to the left. That's just going to smooth it out when it comes in. And then we can even drag this out to the right so it's a little bit smoother. It's a little too much to right around here. Now, we are going to be adding something to the end of this that's going to give it that Iman Gadzhi feel for it when they do their animations. It's something that Vox also does. So just wait till the very end, as that effect is very computer intensive, and I always throw that on very last. And I always throw that on at the end just because it's computer intensive, and then you could just render it as soon as you throw it on. So as of now, we are going to put the same exact crop effect on the one that's vertical. So I'm going to toss crop onto our layer here. Make sure my playhead is at the very beginning of this layer. Go over the crop. I'm going to create a keyframe for bottom, drag that out to the right, increase the percentage to 80%. So that's when it just disappears. Snap to the one at the end, and then find out as soon as right the percentage of right where like everything's in there. So 17%, and then highlight both these keyframes, right click, ease in, drop this down, drag this to the left. And there you have it. That's our animation for the two dashes or grid lines here. So we also want to find a good timing for this to come in. So right about here is where we want them to come in. Maybe even like right around here, a little bit earlier. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now we're going to put the text in here. So I'm going to hit T on my keyboard to bring up the text tool. Just click once, and then we're going to type in how to invest your money. So obviously this is not the right font, so I'm going to highlight all of this. Go over to text here. Once again, you should have the workspaces, captions, and graphics. That's how you see this spot right here, or this window. If you don't see that window, go up to Window, Essential Graphics, and you'll see it. But we're going to change the font here to Kuluna. Once again, if you download our project file and all the assets, you're going to get this font here. If you don't want to download it, which is free, so you should download it. But if you don't want to, you can find this online for free. All right, so we still need to fix this up just because we manipulated the spacing between the type here. So we're just going to change this to 0. And that will make it as it should be. Now I'm going to align to the center horizontally. Right here is pretty good. We're going to put it like right about here. This sizing is also pretty decent. I think that's a good size for what we want it. So after these grid lines probably like appear a little bit, so right around this area, we want to have this pop in. But the way we're going to animate this in is we're going to throw on a crop effect. But the way we're going to have this animate in is from right to left here. So we're going to manipulate the position first. So click on the layer, go to effects control, make sure your playhead is at the beginning of this layer, create a keyframe for position, drag that to the right. And then I'm going to take the first numbers here and increase it to where the money is a little bit hanging off of the $100 bill here. From here, I can highlight both these keyframes, right click, temporal interpolation, ease in, drop this down, and then take this one on the right, drag it to the left here. So it comes in nice and smoothly. All right, one more thing that we need to add to this is a crop effect. So I'm gonna, in the effects window here, you should have crop already searched up. So just drag this onto our layer, our text layer, And then we want to make sure our playhead's at the beginning of it. Create a keyframe for right. We're going to increase the percentage of it to where it's just cropping everything out. So right around 50%. I'm going to drag my playhead to the right. We can honestly snap to this keyframe here. So I'm going to snap to that. And then we can take the right percentage for the crop and we can increase this to where everything is just appearing. So right around there. And then I'm going to highlight both these keyframes, right click, ease in, drop this down, and then move that to the left. So there we go. That's looking pretty cool. Couple more things to add here before we get on to the finishing touches that really ties everything in. One is the triangles here. So to do that, we're going to go over to this little icon here, new item, color map. We're going to hit OK. I'm going to take the eyedropper tool and eyedropper the blue that's right here. We want to eyedrop the same exact blue that's the most present in this dollar bill. So this area right here, you can copy this color code if you're following along. Hit OK. Hit OK one more time. We're going to drag this onto our timeline here. And we're going to make a triangle. So I'm going to look up in the effects window here, we're crop, and we're just going to drag that on. I'm going to take my pen tool and we'll make a very small triangle. So I'm going to click once, hold down shift. Yeah, shift doesn't really do anything. And just make this small triangle. From here, I'm going to click invert, and then we can just increase the percentage of the left one to 100%. Change the mask feather to 0. And then I'm going to go over to the fit here, this little drop down, and zoom in by 400%. We're going to take this little sidebar and just find that triangle that we just made, which is right here. From here, make sure that the mask here is selected. So if it's not selected, you just want to click mask 1. That will allow us to click and drag this over to where it needs to be. So we want to make sure that this is fully animated in so we can find out where exactly this needs to be. So right here, I'm going to adjust this and then we're going to duplicate it. So I'm going to hold down Option on my keyboard, click and drag this up, and it's duplicated. Click on the mask here, and that's going to allow us to click and drag this to the left, and I'm holding shift as I'm dragging it to the left, as it will keep it on the horizontal axis for us if you hold down shift. One more time, we're going to duplicate it. I'm going to click on mask here, click and drag while holding shift, and there we go. Now it's time to animate these in. So I'm going to put this to fit, and we want to find out pretty much, I guess, from the beginning we want this. Let me see here. So when the text comes in, that's when we want these to come in as well. So I'm going to highlight all these and drag them to the right to align with the text layer. And then what we can do is take the position of the first one and manipulate it. So click on the first layer, make sure your playhead's at the very beginning. I'm going to go over to position keyframe, create one, and then drag this to the right. Take the 960 and make that right around here, just we want to put it to around like 600. I'm going to highlight both these keyframes, right click, temporal interpolation, ease in, drop this down, and you should know the deal by now. Just make this to the left, and it's just going to ease that in for us. Now we can copy these layers, so hit Command C and paste them onto our other triangles. Command V, and do the same one for the next one. Command V that. So they're all coming in at the same time. We want to kind of stagger it. So to do that, we just take our second triangle layer and move that to the right a little bit. Same with the third one, just like stagger it as steps. So we can even move them a little bit more. So just like that. Once we add that final effect that I was talking about, it's going to make this look a little bit better, the animation portion of it. All right, one more asset portion to add to this, and that's the text that's going to be appearing here. To do that, it's pretty simple. We're going to go over and create a new item, which is going to be a color map. Hit OK. We're going to just make it this reddish color here. You could copy this color code. Hit OK. Hit OK one more time. Drag this onto our timeline. And what we're going to do is just put a crop effect onto it. And then just do this, create a 4-point polygon mask. So just a rectangle pretty much. And we obviously want to shrink this, but before we do that, I'm going to check off invert here, bring the mask feather to 0, and then just increase the left percentage to 100%. I want to make this a little bit smaller. So to do that, I'm going to highlight these 2 points here on the end. Click and drag this while holding shift. Click and drag this and bring it up like that. Then I kind of want to take these 2 ones by highlighting it and bring it to the right here. Not too much. That should be good. From here, I'm going to hit T on my keyboard to bring up the text tool. Click once. I'm going to type in correctly. I'm going to go back up to my selection tool, drag this on top of our little rectangle here, scale it up so it fits in there nicely. And we're going to change this to a black. Even scale it up a little more. From here, what I'm going to do is nest these 2 layers. So I'm going to highlight both of them, right click, nest, hit OK. Then we can scale this down. Hit the motion here, like hit the text here, and that'll allow us to click and drag it and put it where we want and scale it how we want. So just like there, and I'm going to throw a little bit of a rotation on it, just like that. That should be good. We want this to kind of scale down a little bit. So make sure the layer is selected. Make sure your playhead is at the beginning. I'm going to create a keyframe for scale, drag that out to the right, and just increase this by 10. So it should be 70. It's at 58 now, but we'll just put it at 70. Highlight both these keyframes, right click, ease in, drop this down. You know the deal, drag this to the left here. It comes in a lot smoother. We're just gonna take this and bring it to the left so it comes in quickly. Yeah, that's good. All right. One last effect that we are going to throw on this is a posterized time effect. That's going to give it the jittery feel that Vox uses and Iman Gadzhi uses a lot, and also Ali Abdaal. So to do that, we want to nest certain things together. So I'm going to nest the dollar pieces together and the dashes. So I'm going to highlight all of them, right click, nest, hit OK. I'm going to go over to the effects here and look up posterized time and toss that onto our nested layer. All we're going to do is just change the frame rate to, let's just do 16 here. What this is doing is just dropping the frame rate of the animation. So we're working it in a timeline that is 30 frames per second. This posterized time effect is dropping whatever is animated in here to 16 frames per second, and it's going to give us that jittery feel. So we also want to toss this onto the text here and the arrows and the this thing as well. So I'm going to highlight all this, right click, nest, hit OK, and we could just copy this effect. So Command C, paste it onto here, and it should be good. So I always like doing this effect last because it takes a lot of computer power to run it. So you always toss this on at the end right before you export, and you should be good. All right, and that's it. That's how to do the Iman Gadzhi style animation. Once again, if you want the project file and the assets used in this video, the link is in the description for that to download them for free. If you want to learn how to become an advanced editor, do the Iman Gadzhi style, Danko style, Vox style, even build your own unique style and go from a okay editor or average editor who's struggling to create great content and most importantly, land clients. You know, as an average editor, you're going to be competing with 1,000 other average editors who are competing on price with potential clients. To position yourself away from that, you need to become a leveraged editor, an advanced editor, and animator. And that way you can attract top paying clients and brand. That's what I've done for myself. At one point, I was earning $30,000 a month editing for people. So we show you how to do all of that in our program and our community. So make sure you hop into it, as you would unlock the ability to become an advanced editor who is able to do exactly what I do and all these other styles and land high paying clients. The price is most likely going to increase each month. As of right now, it's the lowest price it will ever be. So the link is in the description to come and join that. With that, I'll see you in the next video.